Welcome to Zines and Roger. Today's video is about my terrible experiments with dyeing yarn using acid dyes. What follows, I'm reluctant to even publish because I'm a mess in the kitchen and I'm quite clearly a mess with the yarn dyes. And it's probably a lesson in how not to dye yarn with acid dyes more than anything. But I'll leave it up to you to decide. What I have learned though is that the acid dyes I used are actually pretty simple to use. You just need to be really careful and clean and sensible. But what I hope, if you do watch, maybe it's a lesson for you. If you want to give it a go, it gives you an idea of, as I said, what not to do. When I bought the dyes, you can download the instructions. So, you know, if you choose to go down this path, then read the instructions. Don't listen to me. But I thought I'd show you the outcome of the dyeing sessions I had. You will have seen the avocado dyeing video. If not, I will link that down below, so you can check that out as well. Again, very amateurish attempts, but I don't know what I'm doing. It's playing and experimenting and just finding out how things are. I mean, I used yarn all the time, and I use indie dyed yarn, and kudos to those that make this their business and make it a successful business, because dyeing yarn is hard with those colour matching and the chemistry of balancing colours and how you mix it and how you create those beautiful colourways. I mean, literally, I've done it once and all I can manage is basically primary colours. I wouldn't know the first thing about furthering on that process. It would take a lot of time and a lot of really hard work. So this is not a venture that is going to go anywhere. It's just to see what happened, just to check it out and have fun, really. I don't have any of the labels up here, which is really annoying, but I do show one or two of the labels in the actual process of dyeing bit, so you can see them there. But I used some merino. I used the King Cole merino that I used for the avocado, but you don't see that in the video because I'd already done that when I did the acid dyes. The first one I did was the big 250 gram skein, and I'd already mucked about with that with acid dyes. So this, I'm just laughing because it looks like a certain emoji. I hadn't noticed that before, but this was the very first one I did. This originally had a very pale blush pink on it from the avocado. I can't undo it. Oh dear. So then I went in with the acid dyes in a colourway called Wallaby, which is basically a brown dye, and it came out this beautiful brown colour, which I much prefer to the blush pink. I think it will be it's now a yarn colour that I want to use, as opposed to that really pale blush pink, which it was pretty, don't get me wrong, but I would have had to over dye it with more avocado dye to get a deeper pink to make it more my cup of tea. But I like brown better than pink, to be fair, even though not knocking pink, because I love pink as well, but brown is one of my favourite all-time colours. So it came out like this. Did I use the recommended quantities? I don't think I did. I think I was frightened of going really rich brown, so I used a bit less than recommended, and so it's come out lighter. Maybe I could have gone darker. I hope you can see. So I should probably stop moving around. Let's just... Now you can probably tell that it's not a full solid colour, that there's some tonal qualities in there. whether or not that's left over from, some of that might be left over from the imbalances of the avocado, but also I cannot leave anything alone. And I got some blue dye and started splodging it on, just in little sprinkles, thinking that it would create a speckle effect. It didn't, it just bled into it, and then I panicked and rinsed it almost immediately, so there's barely any evidence of any blue having been on there. But if you look in real life, there is just sort of, it's a variant, it's a slight variegated yarn as opposed to a solid brown colour. It's 250 grams of merino, and I was wondering if that would be enough to make like a vest or something. I might go down that route, like a little tank top thing. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but that was my initial idea for this, which I hope you can see. Then I went with, you'll see I did at the same time lots of different dyeing. On a different day, I dyed some of this, which is the Teeswater not hand spun, it's been machine spun, but this was a Teeswater and something mix. But I bought it a few years ago as undyed wool, and it is beautiful, really silky, and it's got a lovely sheen on it. And I caked one because it's 100% wool and it's not superwash or anything, my poking and prodding of the wool in the pan probably agitated it to within brink of felting. So I caked it to see if it had felted, because uncaked it looks like this, which is more it looks a bit tatty, if I'm honest. So I think that's my fault completely, because I've tinkered with it too much and I've messed about with it too much. This isn't a flat colour either. There are areas where it's definitely darker. It's really hard to see if this is a good match on screen, and whether or not you can see the splodges of darker areas where it's paler. This is my favourite though. This blue is stunning, and I'm really pleased. I don't mind the tonal effect. I don't mind that it's not solid. I don't think that's the point. Why would you hand dye something if you could just buy a solid colour in a shop? I mean, there's nothing special about that. This is unique and it's special. Nobody else has got this. I think with those two skeins I've got a design idea in mind, which is quite good fun. I'm really pleased. I bought this yarn from a woman who had sorry about pling plonks. She had a farm. This is going back maybe 4 or 5 years. We stayed, I'm going to make people angry. It was on the very border of Lancashire and Yorkshire. Now, my family's from Lancashire, and I went there to go and visit my fam, but I've got a feeling that the farm was just on the inside of Yorkshire, and I remember it causing a fun stir, not a serious one, and we had a conversation about it. Anyway, they had a sheep farm, a rare breed sheep farm with these Teeswater sheep, which are beautiful sheep, but they sold their own yarn from the fleeces of their sheep. And I think they did Yarndale the very first year of Yarndale, and then that was it. They decided not to do it again because I think it was a bit much. But I bought this directly from them when we went to stay with them. I mean, it's one of those weird sort of random. I didn't go and book a holiday specifically as a crocheter wool enthusiast. It just so happened that this holiday we rented was on this farm, which was quite cool. You didn't ask to hear about that story, but there you go. Stunning. I also found this, which was just like a 20-gram mini of some other. This is another sort of sheepy wool, and this was the colourway sulphur that I had, which I thought would be neon, but it turned out technically it could be neon if you got the measurements of the yarns right. But then I went and added red splodges, and again immediately rinsed it out in a panic. So there are deeper hues in there because I added an orangey red and then panicked. I don't particularly like that. In fact, the brown and the blue are the only ones I do like. And then we have the Regia stuff. This was a purpose yarn specifically for doing your own hand dyes. It's a Regia one, 100% merino. It's a 4-ply. And I chose these 3 colours, and I will show you, you'll see what they look like when they're wet and when I've been dyeing them. These ones were microwave dyed. Didn't know you could do that. It's so quick, and I'd highly recommend it if you just wanted kind of to have a first go in yarn dyeing, rather than get out loads of pots and pans. You just use I just use my mixing bowl and a bit of hot water, and you microwave it for 5 minutes. Then you have yarn that's a different colour to when it went in. So, I mean, amazing. This one is tonal, as you can see. I think I didn't do very well in saturating it all. This is probably the worst one. Worst? That's stupid. There is no worst or best. It's just, it is what it is. It's tonal. I don't like this colour at all. It's a greeny turquoise, I suppose. I think it was called Kingfisher, if I remember correctly. I don't know what to do. Maybe I should do a giveaway with one of these skeins. Maybe. I mean, if you wanted to win something that, like, it looks so tatty. But it's unique. I also really like this red. This was called Desert Pea, and it comes out as like a strong red that is sort of borderline orangey. Maybe it's not a purpley red at all. It's got very little in the way of blue tones in it. But I do really like this red. This came out very nice indeed. I wouldn't mind pairing that with like a kid silk or something like that and doing a fluffy cowl. That might look really nice. I'm clock watching. I hope that's okay. I've got to go out in a minute, and then I'm going to come back and do a Patreon video for all my patrons and talk about what I've been up to in February and plans for March. And then finally this one, which scares me quite a lot. It's a very vivid greeny yellow. Now you see this in a bowl where I've added a lot of speckles of dry powder, of dry dye onto a wet yellow skein. And again, actually, not long after I stopped recording that, I went, do you know what? I really don't like that. And I think I say in the video I don't like it. And so I rinsed it off not long after. And this is the result, which actually is much better than I thought it was going to be. But it does mean that rather than being a yellow skein, it is actually acid green with some speckles left in it. So yeah, anyway, I shall pass you over to the past me, who will make a fool of herself. And what would you do with these yarns? Let me know the sort of thing you would, what you would dye. How would you go about dyeing? What colours would you make? What kind of experiments would you do? And before I go, I would like to say thank you to all the advice I got from people when I asked about it. In one of my podcast episodes, I asked for some advice. So I got some advice from Becca, which was brilliant. Thank you so much. I got some advice from Michelle, who's Dora Explored. She's got a couple of blog posts about dyeing as well. And then I've missed somebody out there, and I'm really sorry. But thank you so much to all the really cool advice I got. It was really helpful. And flapjacks. I had no idea that flapjacks were different in the US. They're just pancakes in the US, but in the UK they are oat, butter, sugar, baked, yummy things. I actually saved some recipes onto my food board on Pinterest. If you want to check those out. I did sort of go, oh my god, maybe I'll have to do a flapjack tutorial, but I don't know that I will. But I didn't have a clue. And then also, if you suffer from seasickness, all the dyeing videos is basically I'm holding the camera with one hand and then farting about with the other with the dyes. So actually, it's quite a lot of movement in that in the next bit. So apologies for that, but I hope you enjoyed them nevertheless. So right, I'm off now to meet a friend who I haven't seen for ages. I'm going to go for a quick walk to try and gain back some sanity from lockdown. Thank you. Over to past me. Hello, I'm back at the dye pot today because I'm an expert now that I've done it once. So this time I'm going to try these, which are little pots of acid dyes, Landscape Originals, and I bought them from an online shop, a UK supplier called Wingham Woolwork. And these were £3.10 each. And there should be enough in each pot, I think, to do 200 grams. So that's 2 skeins of yarn. I'm going to try 2 different methods. I've got a different pot. For my avocado dye, my pot was too small. I've learnt my lesson. I've got a bigger pot. And I'm also going to try microwaving this one, which is 100 grams of Regia, especially for hand dye. So this one's a 4-ply for hand dyeing. It was £4.75 and I bought it from my local wool shop. I ordered it online for £4.75. So that one's going to get microwaved. These 2 are going to go in this pot. Now, because this is a proper sheepy wool, this is Teeswater and Wensleydale fleece. It's quite a long fleece and it's very woolly, so it needs to be soapy washed first, just because I think if you get rid of some excess, what's it called, lanolin, that'll help the dye take on a bit more. And then I'm going to do a vinegar bath, which also helps the dye soak into the wool. The dye soaks into the wool. Yeah, got that right. So over here is just some soapy water, and I used the delicate wash stuff for wools, silk and cashmere. I'm going to wash this one and I'm going to wash these in that water. These have been washed and rinsed, and then I've given them a little vinegar bath, squidged out the excess water, and they're waiting, one to go in this bowl and one to go in here, this has got hot water in it, maybe 400 millilitres, I'm not sure. And in there I'm going to put a whole tub of the dye. I have chosen to use marine, which should be a nice dark cobalt blue. This is not a completely whole pot because I did do some experimenting with it the other day, so there's about a teaspoon missing. I'm going to put all of it in. Just be really careful. I'm wearing a pinny And I should be wearing gloves, but I'm not. But from my experiments the other day, my countertop is stained blue and no amount of scrubbing has managed to get that out. And the same with that pink. I've spilt that just by tinkering now. Right, so let's just give that a stir. That looks amazing. Sorry, my finger's in the way. So I'm going to stir that through and dissolve it. I think probably I'm going to put the heat on. Put the heat on it. Hang on a second. Right, I've turned on the heat. That's helping dissolve it. I can already hear it's kind of less granular. And then I'm going to put my wet wool in. Oh Christ, I can smell burning. I can smell singeing. What have I done? I think I might have burnt it on the way in. Just be more careful than me. I think there's enough water in there. I didn't want to go crazy. I think I could add a bit more in, I guess, but I think there is plenty in there. I just need to poke and prod this down properly. Possibly use tongs to turn it over as well. Pardon? The dots. Tongs. Oh, yeah, go on then. Okay. So I'm going to tinker with that some more, get it a bit more submerged. I might add a touch more water because that shouldn't really make much of a difference. And I believe that when I bought this one, it did say that everything was in the dye pot, so you don't need a mordant for this because it should be in the mixture. I've moved this to the back of the hob. It's on a smaller ring, and I added another 100 millilitres of water just because I really didn't think there was enough. And I'm just going to let that simmer. I'm hoping that this water will become clear as the dye soaks into the wool, but we shall see because I've never done this before. But let's go on to this bowl, and I've already spilt this powder, so I need to be more careful really. I think it's 1 teaspoon per 100 grams. So let's just, I mean, that wasn't exactly a brilliant teaspoon. Something dark in there, what's that? Don't know. I'm just adding hot water. It says about 100 millilitres, that's a bit more than 100 ml. Oh my God. Hang on a second. Okay, I think I need more water. I was going to add this one as well, but I'm just going to use it to clean up my mess. What will happen? Look at that. Can you believe it? It's like a cleaning cloth. I'm just going to pop that in as well. Right, I need more water, and then I'm going to put it in the microwave. I think overall there's about 350 millilitres of water in here. And I've smushed it around, and now I'm going to put it in the microwave for 5 minutes on high. I have been busy in the last half an hour. So this was simmering away for half an hour, and actually, yes, that water is less dark. So the ink is definitely being absorbed into that yarn and getting very, very blue. And the yellow I did, zapped it for 5 minutes in the microwave, smushed it up, zapped it again for another 5 minutes, took it out and put it in this tin. And because I was curious, I sprinkled some different dye on it. And I've just left it sitting in the pan, because if I smush this about, all these speckles will just bleed and get lost. Now, I don't like that colour combination at all. It's really not me, but this is about just playing and working out how things play out, really. I have got one more to go into the microwave, and I've done one since. The light in here is terrible, so this is actually a much greenier colour in real life, but it's practically dark outside, so we're having to deal with awful lighting. I mean, but you can see, so it's like a dark turquoise compared to the blue, but on my phone screen it's really kind of not showing it off to its best. Like in real life, this is a glorious green. Sorry about my manky cooker. And I've got one more to do, and I'm going to do a teaspoon of desert pea, which is probably like a red colour. A teaspoon is going to go in. I've got to rinse this bowl. Let's just reject. I'm just going to... So that's a really quick way of doing it. If you just want like a vaguely semi-solid colour, I haven't got a utensil to put. There's nothing I can do. Right, I'm not going to touch that, it's too hot. If you're just doing it for funsies, microwaving is the way to go rather than on the pot. However, this is going to create a more solid dye coverage, whereas this is a little bit more haphazard, and you're going to end up with, I've got some really pale bits. Flip, that is really hot. There's some pale bits in there, and that's some really dark bits. So this one is a tonal. I hate it. Oh no. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So this is my last colour, Desert Pea. It doesn't smell like pea. It smells awful though. Whereas the other ones were fine. It's just given me an instant headache. I am supposed to be wearing breathing equipment, but I'm not, which is really bad. So you should wear a mask really when dealing with these powders. And also I am wearing a pinny. I may not have gloves on, which is another stupid thing, but I do have a pinny on to protect my clothes. So I've had a tinker around with this, and I've come up with this is quite a pale splodge. So I've opened up my Kingfisher again, and I'm just going to take the tiniest, weeniest of pieces and just give it a light dusting. I don't know if this is like how you get a speckle effect, but something like this, isn't it? And then I'm not going to touch it, but I'm just going to leave it for an hour before rinsing. But kudos to professional yarn dyers, because wow, they do an amazing job compared to this. This is an embarrassment, and I will never do it again. I don't know what I'm going to do with this yarn. I'm going to have to make it into something, aren't I? I'll give it to the children to make pom-poms with. But you know what they say, less is more, so I should stop tinkering. Because look, I've left this as well, but it does bleed rather than have the definite speckles. There's a lot of bleeding. And I don't know what it will look like when I've rinsed it either. So I've run out of yarn anyway, but I do I do have like some primary colours now. I've got some dye left, but no yarn to dye. So I'm going to have to maybe buy some more yarn. Oh, sorry. This cloth is now disgusting. It wasn't. It was clean, but now it's just picked up all the dyes. I'm getting a new kitchen soon, so that's why I don't really care very much about this worktop or cooker. The cooker is manky. The surface top is manky, but I do not care because we are in the middle of getting a new kitchen. So what I'll do is all of these will sit in their dyes for a little bit longer. I want to leave this one for at least an hour and the other ones too, and then I shall rinse them and leave them to dry. And then that's it, I think. But you will not see me become a yarn dyer. It's really difficult and wow.